Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about the exercise that we carried out in our organisation just a couple of weeks ago. But just on this slide, as you can see there, I think some important things just to highlight, perhaps some of the scale of what we're seeing at the moment. Now, a lot of this comes from the government's cyber breaches survey, which some of you may well be familiar with. It's a poll and a report that's carried out annually by the Department for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport and Ipsos Mori. And I think there's some interesting things here that for me really just highlight some of the challenges we have around the culture. So, we recognise probably up to half of organisations have at least one cyber breach or attack in a 12-month period, which is a pretty significant figure and is growing at an alarming rate. And it's affecting organisations of all sizes. So large organisations, small organisations, even those micro businesses aren't able to escape the volume of attacks that we're seeing. Phishing is still very much the number one source of attack, particularly as we saw through the COVID-19 pandemic. Lots of criminals utilising some of the anxiety, the uncertainty, the sudden shift to home working as a way of preying on people's nervousness and being very effective in many cases with some of those attacks that we saw. Perhaps the big worrying thing for me in there is that third bullet point, is that when an organisation does fall victim to a cyber attack or breach, 1/3 of them don't do anything about it. So they don't take any action. They don't carry out any form of training, and they don't do any sort of education awareness or put in any technical measures to try and stop them becoming victim again. And I think that's unforgivable. If you've had a really big wake-up call, you've been a victim in the first place, then really that should give a strong indication to do something about it as well. And as we said, I think on that bottom there, James, you described in your introductory piece there, and I thought some really interesting stats you mentioned about, people working from home feel less safe and more at risk of a cyber attack, probably because they may well be using their own devices, their own systems. They don't have the technical support around them. And I think that's a really interesting thing now, because we're starting to see, of course, as the impact of the pandemic starting to reduce, there are still a high number of people who continue to work from home and will continue to work from home in the future, as we perhaps have more of a blended approach to the work-life balance. James, we just want to go on to the next slide, and I'll just share with you the exercise that we did within our organisation. So we have an organisation around about 45 staff, and we carry out reasonably regular exercises to test their security knowledge and experience. Now, bear in mind, security, we're policing, that's our job. We thought that we would run something along these lines. So just as a way of background, one of my colleagues in my team sent out an email to all staff, and we have an appraisal system which we call Clear Review. So we thought we'd use that, and it's a good way of providing feedback to members of staff. And in the exercise that we did, we changed the name slightly. We called it Clean Review. We were hoping that some people might spot that and see straight away, aha, this looks a little bit suspicious, and perhaps not click on it. But we were staggered. More than 60% of the organisation actually clicked on the link. When they clicked on the link, it took them to a little page to say that you've been caught out by a phishing exercise, and we're now following that up with some guidance and some training that we're going to be delivering on Monday. And in fact, I was just talking this morning to Michelle, who was the one who sent this on our behalf within the organisation. And what was really interesting is that there are 9 different initiatives within our company. One of those initiatives, 100% of the staff clicked on that link. So we're able to break it down by individuals and by initiatives within our business. And that's really helpful to understand why some staff are more susceptible to the other. But there were some really good positive things about it. Some of the staff contacted each other by text or by email, by phone, and said, look, have you seen this? Does it look a bit suspicious? Which was great. So there was something there that triggered a reaction. Some of them contacted our outsourced technology provider, which was great. We briefed them beforehand that this is exactly what we were going to do. So they were aware of that. We were really encouraged. And then one member of my team, and I have to say that because I'm very proud, because I think she did a fantastic job here, actually contacted the NCSC and forwarded it to their phishing scam hotline, which is exactly what we'd want people to do. So I was quite encouraged by that behaviour. And on Monday, we'll be carrying out training for all the staff in your organisation on how to spot phishing scams and what they can do to try and reduce their vulnerability to those in the first place. And that really comes about creating the right culture. And what we're trying to do in the culture of the organisation, and something that we always suggest to other organisations as well, is about a positive culture. So reward good behaviour, reward those people who actually identify something that looks suspicious and put their hands up, and don't punish those who do click on it. We all do. And I'll put my hand up and say 3 weeks ago, I did exactly that by clicking on a phishing email that looked legitimate. So we all do it from time to time. And then finally, I think just on that bottom part of the slide there, again, it's another really worrying statistic that we see from the government survey, but just 14% of businesses carry out any form of training or education in relation to cyber over the past 12 months. I find that truly shocking. It's an easy thing to do. It's relatively cost effective, if not free, and it's something that should be done on a very regular basis. And yet 14% of businesses, only 40% do it, which means that we are creating an easy environment for criminals to target us and potentially steal our data.